5:01 p.m. and this meeting of the WSCSU will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call in accordance with the law. And, well, you all are in the room. You won't be able to start your screen unless I give you permission, and nobody in the Zoom will be able to talk unless I give them permission to speak, because we're tired of Zoom bumpers. So, I really planned that for the people out in the audience so they'd understand it, but they're not there. If there are no changes to be made to the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Great, thank you. Moving on, Mark, you have an administrative report for us?
Yeah, a couple of announcements. We've been advertising for an assistant director of nutrition position. We've had over 20 candidates, which is very exciting. We're interviewing a handful of folks on Friday morning. So we're moving right along with that. I know we're going to take a look at the job description a little later in today's meeting. But we're excited. That really sets us up for after April break to really focus on all of the other positions that need to be in place by the end of June. So we're feeling like we're on target and in good position to be ready to go for summer. Harley Sterling is essentially full-time after the April break, who is our new director. So very exciting. Another update I'd like to give, I was just at a organizational meeting down at Canal Street School, which is our public pre-K in Brattleboro. And we're certainly moving forward. The hope is to have 2 cohorts of public pre-K at the Canal Street School next year. Of course, this year, as you know, was our first year of opening Canal Street to public pre-K, where we have a strand of 9 students. We have 13 students at our current Oak Grove public pre-K classroom. Next year, the Oak Grove will move down to the Canal Street building. So it'll essentially be our public pre-K center for Brattleboro. Teachers will be able to collaborate. All of our pre-K students who are registered will be able to interact. So we're building it slowly. Long-term vision is we have 4 to potentially 6 cohorts, but that's a ways away. We're really building it one step at a time. Right now we only have 5 registrations of folks who have signed up, but we have other folks on the list who we'll be reaching out to. But if there's anybody in the audience listening and you know of families who are in need of free public pre-K for 4-year-olds in Brattleboro, really urge them to call central office or Mary Kaufman directly, the principal at Oak Grove, and is also the principal at Canal Street. So those are the 2 programs that we're really developing and we'll be focusing on this spring moving forward. I'd like to move on to new hires now, if that's okay. We have a new hire in our ML department, multiple language department, and that is V.S.A. So I'd like to recommend her for hire.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Welcome aboard.
Okay, and we do have some turnover and new people coming on for special ed that Tate will.
So I'd like to recommend Allison Paquette for Oak Grove School as a special educator for that coming year, and Kevin Drury for our secondary special education coordinating position.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you.
Then we also have resignations for Jimmy Lynch, a special educator at UHS, Christina Zoll, a school psychologist, Abigail Healy from Green Street School special educator, and Nancy Kowalski, an Oak Grove special education staff.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? With our regrets.
And there's just two more, and that is Michelle Monks-Manton is a special educator from BAMS who's retiring, and we'll hope to continue to do some limited work with her in the future. And then Lori Doherty also has resigned as the Academy ML teacher.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? With our thanks and congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the main portion of our presentation tonight is to highlight our professional development plan for this school year that we've been implementing. And I'm really excited to introduce our curriculum and assessment team. We have our full team here. And as you know, last year we did a reorganization. We envisioned a reorganization of the curriculum office. So Bryn is our director of curriculum and assessment. Stacy is our pre-K coordinator for pre-K through 6. And Janet Slazinski is curriculum coordinator for grades 7 through 12. Brian Bittner is, of course, our longtime reading expert and reading coach. And Brittany, who's our special ed coordinator, Whitney, who's our special ed coordinator, will be assisting with the presentation tonight. But before we get into the specifics, I do just want to highlight the fact that all of our presentations that we give at the SU and SD level throughout a school year are directly connected to our continuous improvement plan. And tonight's presentation is really a backbone of our improvement as a system because it highlights our investment in programs and our people. So I think it's a really important presentation tonight. I think it speaks volumes of the vision of our school system, our proactive approach to supporting new teachers and veteran teachers, and I feel like we're a school district that continues to look ahead at new programming, data-informed decision-making, and investing in curriculums that produce student outcomes. So, very excited for the presentation. I'll chip in throughout, but I'll turn it over to Bryn to get us started.
Yes, so we came together to kind of think about how could we report back about professional development this year, and we're really in a place where there's not just one or two PD events. It's really the backbone of what all of us do in our school district. In our office, all teachers, administrators, parent, everyone in our system is constantly learning, and I'm really excited that we model that for students. So we're gonna highlight some things that we've done with hopefully a familiar metaphor today. And each of us is going to take the lead on some of the information, but also we might jump in as well to provide information. Feel free to stop us at any point too if you have questions.
So here's the plan for our presentation. We first want to give you some background information about our CIP goals and how this aligns with the PD that we offer, and we'd like you to think about this professional development through the lens of MLSS, or the multi-layered systems of support. So we can think about this as layer 1 being differentiated PD for all of our staff, then layer 2 being targeted opportunities for some staff, and then layer 3 being very specialized PD for few staff. And then we'll wrap up with thoughts for next year and planning.
And then, of course, all of this is tied to board policy D2, which relates to professional development and reporting and planning with the board each year. So we have some goals with our PD. The first is that we really want to, as Mark said, center our continuous improvement plan goals. So when we work each year to refine CIP goals and look at action steps that might support the achievement of those goals, we're also linking that to what professional development might we need in order to gain the skills and expertise and have opportunities to collaborate as we're working toward those goals. So our PD is always goal-centered, just as we hope our lessons for students are always goal-centered. When individual teachers seek to engage in a professional development opportunity through their course reimbursement funds, they in fact have to link how the course relates to the CIP goals for the district or differentiated for the school. So there's really that holistic focus on goals, both for big events and even for individual workshops. We also really want to make sure that our PD is needs-based, so we look at frequent data to try to tell us generally what needs are there with teacher practice that are most going to support our students, and also keeping current with research in the field to understand what innovations really should be shared and promoted within our staff. And then finally, we really hope to be student-centered. So when we're selecting courses to run or PD opportunities, we're really thinking about not just offering this to teachers, but ultimately offering best practice to our students. So our ultimate aim is really to improve our student outcomes, continuous growth for them, and also continuous growth for our staff. So thinking about this, I pulled this slide together and Janet said, "Why is there a picture of a bed?" I said, trust me. So I think many people have talked about this before, we've talked about it together, but just in case, another metaphor for a multi-layered systems of support or MLSS system is thinking about the layers of your comfy, cozy bed. So layer 1 might be the sheets that are always there and are there for everyone, no matter the season. And then we might have a layer 2 that's a little bit differentiated or for a select group of people, so that's maybe the comforter. We have a layer 3 that's like the extra weighted blanket for a very specific type of professional development need, either identified by the teacher or sometimes identified in conjunction with the team, the instructional coach, or the administrator when there's an idea that a teacher needs development in a very targeted area. So we bring the bed analogy back, thinking about those layers of supports for our students as well. There are some highlights there in the corner. This past year, we have 9 teacher professional development days in the calendar. That will continue for next year in the calendar that's been approved. And 3 of those days were focused also in addition on professional development for paras. So of those 9 days, 2 were district-wide professional development days, 3 were site-based school-controlled days, and then 4 of those days in the calendar are also dedicated for teacher prep, semester changeover, teacher professional learning community work. So we try to add different layers in there, both for holistic professional learning and also to give teachers some more time to do the day-to-day tasks that need to be done in the classroom. In addition to that, we had a 2-day new hire orientation for all of our new paras and teachers. There's lots of learning groups and PLCs that happen that we'll talk about. PD happens weekly too. It's not just things that the curriculum office puts on. So every staff meeting, every EST planning session that happens at schools are also a form of professional development optimally. Folks use personal PD funds, and then also we have a very robust mentoring and coaching program here in the district. So lots of different ways in our calendar that we reserve time for PD. And not that you can read all of this, but I just included this graphic as a reminder. This is a page in our teaching and assessment toolkit. And this is not even inclusive of everything, but this is something we publish to teachers in the beginning of the year to get a sense of all of the offerings that are available to folks that they can sign up for. So even at a glance, you can see that there's quite a range of curriculum and assessment sponsored classes and professional development opportunities. And we try to keep that pretty organized for teachers because there's so much going on, and announce all of those dates at the beginning of the school year so people can plan for those. All right, so we're gonna jump into layer 1, and what do we do for all staff? So as I mentioned, we had 2 district-wide PD days this year. One was the October 15th in-service. And for those of you who have the slides, these link to the kind of brochure that was offered to teachers so they can see the range of the 44 sessions that were offered that day. And many of those were offered by in-house presenters, our coaches, our teachers, some of our paras offered sessions. Everyone signed up by interest. It's always heart-wrenching to try to determine what are the first and second choice sessions and who gets what and fitting everyone together like a puzzle. But we were able to honor everyone's either first or second choice. And some required trainings also happened that day for some of our specialized groups, like our nurses. I believe there was a special educator training for part of that day. New hires who are taking the all kids class also had dedicated time that day. So we try when possible to also build in some required trainings to the district-wide PD days so teachers don't have to miss class time as much. At the very bottom, there's a graph. This was the graph of how our teachers and paras reported feeling about the day, and it's tiny, but I'll read it to you. Blue is strongly agree, and red is agree. So the content was relevant to my work is the first set of bars. The presenter were knowledgeable, the format was well organized, and I learned something I can apply. And you can see pretty across the board, it was highly received by folks who took the survey. Folks didn't have to take the survey to get their professional development certificate at the end, so we did have pretty good participation rates with that. The next district-wide day that we offered was just March 3rd. We had a half-day session for all pre-K through 12 educators, teachers and paras, that lasted for 3 hours, so everyone went to one of those sessions. It was repeated in the morning and the afternoon. And the session was from an outside presenter named Connie Hamilton on active engagement strategies. And we'll talk a little bit more after about why we chose that. Opposite the session, there were a range of options, including organized workshops, time for vertical team meetings, and also time for team collaboration. So that was a more of a set experience where everyone got the same professional training, and then also some flexible time for the other half of the day. And then finally, in terms of a district-wide trainings, we're trying really this year to plan for professional development for our paras as well. And so the afternoons of conferences, when paras typically aren't engaged in teaching or student duties, we've been offering a range of half-day para trainings as well, mainly led by our instructional coaches and folks from our office, sometimes special educators, special ed directors, and that's just kind of a range of what happened. This was in November. Then in March, Rebecca Olmstead ran some safety and health trainings for our paras, and I believe, Tate, there was also CPI.
Yep, also CPI on the 21st, 22nd. Yeah.
So it's kind of layer 1, what happens for everybody. I'm going to turn over to Janet and Stacy to talk about some additional kind of layer 1 offerings that we have.
Yeah, so then in addition to the things that are run by the CNA office, there are still lots of things going on at the schools that are considered a layer 1 support. And I know last night Hannah talked about the NEAS process and how that has been a big focus of the work at the high school this year. So they are preparing for their decennial visit. And the big deal has been working on kind of formalizing what it is they teach through their curriculum documentation.
We also conduct what we've been calling learning walks as we've been implementing new EL literacy curriculum. We're looking to visit every classroom to collect data around that implementation and also the high leverage instructional practices that are embedded in that curriculum. So we've been going into classrooms with teams, fall, winter, spring, and collecting some information. And I have a graph to show you on the next slide when we get there, but that's gonna come up in a second. As you know, also came up yesterday in the meeting how equity and social justice is deeply embedded in everything that we do. And this box highlights some of the work that Michaela Sims and Shannon Kelly are doing throughout the district. This is certainly not in an all-encompassing list, but this gives some examples of the work that they are engaged in buildings. And then also, because of our implementing the new literacy EL curriculum, we have an EL implementation team that has members from across the district. We really work to get at least 2 per school and members from each grade level. So we have representation from K to 8. And we worked 4 days over the summer delivering PD to that particular group, and then they sort of went back to their home schools and helped be spearheads and be experts to support curriculum implementation in their building. And so part of that EL implementation team, combined with the learning walks, helps us see the information that we've gathered through those learning walks around the high leverage instructional practices. You can see the practices listed there at the bottom, everything from using learning targets to guide instruction, to having students grapple with, with new learning, questioning strategies, student discourse. And you can see the results of the learning walks. These are the results from the most recent round in winter. We will have another round again in May. And so that red line is showing we had said as part of our CIP process that we're hoping to see 80% of at least 80% and somewhat evident across those high leverage instructional practices. And using that information has helped us to determine some professional development needs, and what led us to bring Connie Hamilton, the presenter at our March 3rd PD day, to help support teachers as they implement those high leverage instructional practices in their classroom.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure thing.
When you go into a classroom, does the teacher know you're popping in, or is it,
Yes.
it's already pre-established? And do you have a conversation with the teacher beforehand about what the issues are that you're looking at, or it's just a moment?
It's just a moment. We intend to go into classrooms for 10 or 15 minutes. The schedule, teachers know the schedule in advance. And we have a learning walk observation tool we use that is sort of capturing these high leverage instructional practices. And then we compile all that data anonymously so that the information is not really related. The teachers don't receive that information back directly. And then we give the forms back to principals, and then they sort of make some determinations about how to share that with teachers. We're looking at it from a district-wide, like how can we inform our PD needs based on what we're seeing in classrooms in terms of these high leverage practices that we want to see.
Yeah, I would add to that, Stacey. I think learning walks are not evaluative of teachers, they're evaluative of our program implementation. So we're not necessarily looking to see like, oh, did Whitney do a good job teaching that lesson? I'm gonna give her some constructive feedback after. It's more just this brief moment in time to see what main elements of this program happen to be being done that day. And we know that you won't see everything in 10 or 15 minutes. So it's just this like quick little dipstick over time to just help us see how are we doing with implementation, and can we identify specific things that we'd love to work on to support teachers and ultimately students.
I mean, I think that's critical, because when you have that 10 or 15 minute spotlight, actually it may all come together after you walk out of the room.
Right.
And even your presence in the room creates a very different energy for the adult as well as for the children, who are sort of looking at you and saying, they're more looking at you than they are maybe fully engaged in the activity. Okay.
All right, so we also, under the layer 1 umbrella or bed sheet, had opportunities for some differentiated PD. So on the March 3rd day, the afternoon, I think it was the afternoon.
It depended on the cohort. Some at 7:12 were in the morning.
Okay, so the BAMS and BUHS teachers had opportunities to meet in department teams, as I understand it, for facilitated discussions to review departmental needs, standards, progression, and transitions between schools.
And there was also time in September for specials teachers, music, PE, arts, to have that vertical teams. So they actually had 2 opportunities throughout the year to meet together, to have, vertical team meetings, especially when you're the only person in your building that's doing that thing. It's really nice to be able to collaborate with other folks around the district.
Myself, Whitney, and Becky Peloso planned 3 days of professional development for the K-8 special education team, which is just a really incredibly fun and dynamic team, extremely dedicated team working with some of our kids that have our highest needs. And we worked on professional development, working on program implementation, using assessment data to support a wide range of learners. So you see a variety of our programs that we worked on, doing some deep dives into the programming. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think the only other piece of that was, another piece that happened within that was peer observation. So special educators were able to go to other schools and see what it looks like in a different school within a same grade band. So they might be a special educator, at Guilford, but they're the only special educator working with the lower grades, so they would be able to go to a different school, and we really enjoyed that opportunity.
Yeah.
So just to piggyback on that, because I talked a lot about peer observation over the last few years, that was really exciting to see the kind of the cross-pollination of teachers visiting their peers in other school sites. So that's starting to happen in the special ed department, but also with classroom teachers as well. So I can report more on that a little bit later, but we really started focusing on peer observation within our school sites, within our teams, with the people who we're really comfortable with. But now we've slowly expanded where we're getting into different schools. And I think that just says a lot about our school district and our teachers and our leaders for providing those opportunities and that support to make it happen. Because you can't just leave your school and drive to another school, observe, and then come back without a whole lot of organizing and planning. So having that support of the leaders and the building leaders is essential. So it's a really nice thing to see that is developing.
Let's see, we also had a half-day session for our academic support teachers centered on Forefront, our data management system, layers of assessment, including progress monitoring and implementation of our math literacy programs. Over the summer, the leadership team attended the V.S.A. Vermont Principals Association Conference, engaged in work around the continuous improvement planning goals. And then we have monthly leadership meetings. I attend in the mornings, and we often have a professional development piece or looking at data piece about our program implementation results or work that we're currently doing. And then we just wrapped these up because that was just Monday.
Yeah, I know, right?
So the Curriculum and Assessment Office organizes and runs grade level meetings. So we're all the first grade, all the fifth grade, all the sixth grade teachers come meet here in this room. And we've worked on a variety of topics this year, working on U.F.A. implementation. That's our kindergarten through third grade phonics program. I was running sessions just at this most recent round of grade level meetings on Forefront and our equity, social justice leaders come and do work around those important topics. And then we also obviously have worked with our math ELA, and we've also had presentations from our science and social studies coaches coming in and doing presentations and working with very specific projects as they are working with those grade level times.
At those grade level meetings, another element of our CIP plan is to have an attendance rate of 80% or better across the year. And so you can see these just wrapped up on Monday, and we had 82% for a year-long average of attendance rate. So that was a celebration. We sort of met that benchmark for ourselves. You can see February is a little bit of a challenging time with winter and illness, but overall 82% attendance. And in this last round of grade level meetings, we asked teachers to jot down some celebrations that they have experienced in their classrooms so far this year. And so we wanted to just highlight some of the celebrations that they have there. Did you want to share anything specific, Brian, about any of those?
The tone of the meetings really felt extremely positive that we just had. And I feel like we've been working on different program implementation for the last couple of years, especially around the work with EL. It's been a big lift for a lot of our teachers. And it just felt like there was this, I wouldn't say a wave of positivity, but the tone feels, was changed and it felt very positive. I really credit Stacy's steady hand over the last 3 years of implementing EL, which has been a big lift for Stacy and all our teachers. And the steady hand, it was really nice because this grade level meeting, we were able to not really focus on EL implementation, but we were looking at the results of EL implementation through the lens of student writing and scoring writing on a rubric and looking at different samples. And that was just, I think, felt like a very professional experience, and we weren't focused on program implementation, we were focused on the results of the program implementation that we've been working on for the last 3 years. So I think it felt really good. I think we left feeling like,
So it feels like we turned a curve a little bit.
For sure.
With implementation. And it's, you gotta be really resilient in doing this work, because naturally a large change like that, there tends to be pushback. And also, it's really difficult to implement a totally new curriculum. So, with a tremendous amount of support and leadership and teacher leaders, the work that's been done over the summer, and building capacity of distributed leadership at our schools, we've really seen the benefits this year in terms of like a major tier 1 impact on our people, so, and the program implementation itself.
So I would add to that, it's a big ask to have all third graders in the district be in doing professional learning together on a day when students are in session, and to find the subs and to write the sub plans. And I think we see example after example of how that works, however, to create cross-school collaboration, to be able to work with each other, to have the seed to then go visit each school. And I'll tell a quick story. Today I was in one of our schools helping to administer the VTCAP assessment that's happening. And I ran into an ELA teacher who literally I met with 2 weeks ago, who was feeling totally overwhelmed with EL and totally overwhelmed with our forefront data system. And we were trying to troubleshoot some of those pieces. And I happened to be in today, and she's like, I went to that grade level meeting, and Brian showed me how to use Forefront, and then I saw how I could use my data, and then I went back and I had been teaching the program like just as it's written. She's like, it has so much rigor, it's amazing. And I was like, that is such a different conversation than we had, 2 weeks ago. But that opportunity to go and collaborate with peers is so important, because teachers are working so hard in their classrooms, but often in their classrooms. And so having that opportunity also to get the support needed to understand, oh, if you click over here, it's so helpful. Or if you find this resource over here, it will make it much easier. So it's a lot, and I really appreciate teachers' time and administrators' time to make those grade level meetings happen. And I do really think it's a solid investment in supporting our teachers and ultimately our kids, and being able to share a consistent message with all of our staff.
I'll just add, our awesome math coach, Gary, was also very helpful in showing teachers how to use assessment-specific data using the Forefront system for about when you might want to hold up and reteach a concept or keep on moving. So it was nice to have that perspective as well.
Can I ask a question? Back a slide or two, the attendance level is 88, 86, 87, 61% and so forth. And I'm kind of, I need some context of why your goal is 80%. What had you been seeing before that I'm assuming your goal of 80% is higher than what you had been having before. And I'm not sure I understand quite why you wouldn't have 80% or higher. And I think you're alluding to some things, but I need to hear them more specifically.
Sure. Last year we really struggled with attendance, and I think that one of the big challenges that schools faced was a sub shortage. And so having teachers out of a building was challenging, particularly in our schools that have more than one class per grade level. Having multiple teachers out presented some challenges around finding substitutes. And then of course life happens and teachers are out sick, and so our attendance rates last year were much lower than 80%, so the goal of 80% seemed to account for, yes, there's going to be some things that happen that prevent people from being able to attend on any one of the given days, but really, and then also honoring the fact, I think the sub situation, we haven't heard as much of that this year. I think it still presents a challenge depending on the school and on the day. But I think we've crossed a hurdle in that regard, and so I think, you know, next year's goal setting might look different than 80%. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think what we see often in classrooms, I'll use literacy for example. Once you have a classroom where 80% of the kids are generally accessing the curriculum and reading on grade level, you can really take off with things. And I think it's probably similar with our professional development events, that if there's a critical mass of people there, that's enough to really allow us to get the message out and spread and for teachers to work together. It happens sometimes that maybe there's only 5 people who are able to come that day or 6. And so the opportunity then for discussion and looking at each other's student work is just automatically lessened because there are fewer people participating in the meeting. Does that answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. I guess what I'm realizing, or what's coming to my mind, is there are those personal reasons that people may not be able to come. Like they're sick or something, so some other circumstance. There also are systemic reasons. And those are things that the individual teachers can't do anything about. If there isn't a substitute teacher, then that's a systemic issue that the administration has to address. So that's what's going through my mind. That's all.
There's also, I think, an increased workload on teachers who are looking to do professional development, because they're not just going into their classroom with that natural momentum of the work they've been doing ongoing. They have to write a lesson plan. I presume for the sub, and it becomes a very different kind of lesson and experience, and that's tiresome to do. It's onerous in order to then get to professional development. Yeah, I mean that's just part of the job.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, 82% becomes 100% because we really believe in the work and the support and the direction that we're providing teachers during these days, or else we won't schedule them. So we're really invested in providing this level of support to all of our teachers, and they're asking for it. And then there are days when they don't want it because something else happens, but we got to keep the big picture in mind, that the more capacity we build, the more knowledge that we build amongst our professionals, the more opportunities for distributed leadership and teachers running staff meetings back at the school. So this is one day, but these one days often have a great impact over time in our buildings. So it's easy to get caught up on being sick and I have this conflict. I get it. We all do that. But what we're trying to do is really keep the big picture in mind in terms of how we grow as a system. And when we talk about turning the curve, we're getting there. And we're seeing that in our implementation analysis and our attendance at meetings like this.
We were gonna leave the sticky notes up in here, I guess they went down.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the posters were
Oh,
over
maybe
there.
it's over there.
They're
You can
on
see the
lives
lives
together.
together.
We can get the whole collection
In there.
Quite impressive.
So we've kind of highlighted layer 1 professional development supports that are more at the district level or across schools, but we really want to highlight too the work for everyone doesn't stop there. There is so much site-based learning work that is happening at each of our school sites. Some highlights of that are opening days. Next year we have 3 days before students come. So that's a time for our administrators and our leadership teams at the school to set the vision for the year, review systems and strategic planning. It's really important to have that time, especially with new staff and returning staff, to clarify the nuts and bolts of how the school runs so that that can be a smooth experience once kids show up at the door. It's a time that our principals are sharing CIP goals and action steps with the school that are differentiated for that school site, and then thinking about expectations as well as local committee work that might happen throughout the year. There are, of course, required universal trainings at the beginning of the year. This list that you see is not inclusive of everything, but of course, our principals every year with all staff go over Act 1, Title IX training, mandated reporting, HHB, and Stop the Bleed with all staff each fall.
What is Stop the Bleed again?
It's stopping if there's an emergency injury.
Medical emergency.
Like
Oh,
literally
truly,
how
it
to
is
stop
Stop the
the
Bleed.
bleeding.
Okay, stop,
Literally.
okay. It's a metaphor for absenteeism or something. Okay.
It's a good
Stop the
question.
bleed.
That's a great
Good
question.
deal.
That could be our new euphemism though. Also, the administrators last summer began work to create common trainings for use across all of their sites so that there's common language being used, common terminology, common examples for some of those really important required trainings so that staff across the entire district are receiving the same information. And I imagine that work will continue again this summer to roll out for next fall. Each school has at least bi-weekly staff meetings and weekly professional development, and that looks different at each site. There are teacher-run trainings, there's learning committees, including once a month dedicated to social justice and equity work in our schools, data analysis, and then student support in our EST process, as well as kid talks. And Whitney will tell us a little bit more about that later. I'm not going to read the next slide to you, but just visually, this is what each school principal indicated as kind of their top site-based work or focus this year. So that's included there for your reference. And clearly our system is running in a way that over the weekend we emailed and said, hey, can you please indicate what is your top thing that you're focusing on? And everyone has it right there, so it's easy to share out.
So these are essentially the main focus for the majority of staff meetings at these school sites. Certainly not all staff meetings, but a focus, repeated focus.
So now we're going to shift into talking about the layer 2 professional development that's available for some teachers as we think about, we were just talking about all, now we're moving into the category of some.
Yeah, so I can talk about this one. Letters is, I've been a local letters trainer for the district for, I think since 2010. Letters is an acronym, stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. Teachers sign up to do that work outside of school hours, and they work with me and the wonderful Oak Grove Library from 3:30 to 5:30 on 10 Mondays. They also do bridge to practice activities with their students, and then they do online work. At the conclusion of Volume 1, which is essentially, it's about the volume of work of a graduate course, they can earn 6 graduate credits, and they can also earn, if they do Volume 2, which is another year of study with me, they can earn up to 12 graduate credits over the course of 2 years doing that work. It's a considerable amount of work, and they can pay for that with their professional development funds. So that's, we had 30 teachers participate in that this year.
Brian, can you share what we charge for those 12 credits?
Well, I think you can get 12 credits for $400.
That's amazing.
There is a fee for the online learning in the book, and I think that's up to about $399. So it's $600, so like $1,000 total over 2 years for 12 graduate credits.
It's just about a column movement on the contract.
Yep.
And that can come out of your PD funds.
Yeah, and you don't have to travel very far, because the furthest you would have to travel is from Putney to the Oak Grove Library. So it's great to have. I think we're up to almost 90 teachers have participated in letters. Okay.
I would say in addition to those 12 graduate credits, we feel great about teachers engaging in letters to acquire deep knowledge of how to teach our students based on science of reading practices. And it's just incredible the depth of, it's not a program, it's a philosophy, it's a conceptual understanding of how the brain learns how to read. And we are so lucky to have a local letters trainer. Brian is one of few, if the only, in the state of Vermont,
I think the only one in the state.
We've also been offering some keys to literacy trainings. I've done 2 rounds of keys to content writing, which is geared towards 3rd through 12th grade teachers, really around research-based best practices for writing instruction. You can see a screenshot there of the writing beliefs. The 2 rounds, we had one that ran in the fall, one again that's running right now in the spring, and for 16 and staff in the fall and 9 in the spring. So continuing that, teachers again sign up for that training voluntarily and have an opportunity to earn graduate credits at a fairly reduced cost for that program as well.
And then over the summer, and then a few follow-up days during the school year, I ran a book study group using the book from Wiley Blevins called Differentiating Phonics Instruction for Maximum Impact. And that book study also morphed into a professional learning community at Green Street School. So we were working with all the kindergarten, first, second, and third grade teachers who teach our U-Fly, our phonics program, looking at that book as a reference for how we can differentiate our phonics instruction for all students.
And then, go ahead.
So the All Kids course is something that we require of our new hires, and it is a course to support students who are multilingual learners, but really the strategies that the teachers learn in this course are just good teaching strategies. And it centers equity and ways to have effective instruction for all kids, hence the name.
This is another one of those courses where, per the contract, the required portion of the course is 2.5 days. Folks can add on 2 additional days of professional learning and get 3 graduate credits through Vermont State University. And we have our local ML coordinators, Jen Course and Deb Coombs, lead that course for us. And they work
has been collaborating
with Michaela.
Yeah.
So in addition, we have EST coordinators who meet monthly, currently led by Whitney and Becky, and they calibrate and share best practices, resources. Whitney and Becky have led that group to have common language and forms, so that we're all collecting the same data and working towards common goals. And the peer observation process has also been useful within that group, and they have reported that it was really valuable to go observe someone else and how an EST meeting runs. There have been a number of different book studies going on throughout the district. These are just a sample of book studies that have been going on. We have coaching PLCs that meet once a month, and they are also doing a book study around coaching. And so that supports our instructional coaches around the district. We have supported teachers to calibrate how they use assessments, focusing on DIBELS, which is one of our literacy screening tools. And we've also done support for Bridges, which is a math intervention program, helping teachers think about scope and sequence, pacing, and how to use the progress monitoring tools within that system to support instruction.
Something I want to add to everything we just talked about in layer 2 and reviewing the list, they are all run by our local folks. So everything just presented in the last 2 slides are really highlighting the talent and knowledge of WSCSU, SD, Vernon employees who are leading that for our staff. And so all of these can be, as you were mentioning, Brian, housed locally and engaging folks here, which I'm really proud of, that we have that capability to be able to offer that to all of our teachers for learning, and also that leadership opportunity for our staff members leading the courses.
I think a real benefit of that is that PD can be targeted to known needs. Like, for example, if an outside letters trainer was going to come in, their experience would look very different, because I could tailor the letters content to U-Fly implementation, to EL implementation. It just makes for a more meaningful experience.
Yeah, I would put our system up against any school district in Vermont. It's incredibly impressive. It speaks volumes to all of our educators and our leadership teams. And our curriculum office is really the engine that drives us forward.
So I'm going to talk just a little bit about EST goals and outcomes. That's work that, like Janet mentioned, Becky Peloso and I have been engaging with over the last few years now. So bringing the EST coordinators together monthly. These are goals that we developed last June based on the rubric that the state put out. So we, rated ourselves with administrators and coordinators and set some goals based on what we thought would really move the needle in terms of our EST systems. We rated ourselves in November, and then administrators did that in January, and so these were the color ratings of that time. We'll be doing that again in June, and so this was really helpful for us to do kind of a mid-year check-in. So the last couple of meetings, we've really been able to focus more on student engagement and involvement in their own EST plans, and students having an awareness of what their goals are and a voice in what they want to work on and what's hard for them and what they're great at, and just having more student involvement. That's also happening simultaneously with a group working on that for students who are on IEPs with Brandy Levesque and Kevin and I. And also in January, this graph just depicts referrals for initial evaluation. So that's something that we're able to look at that data in reflection on our EST processes. So how many students are moving to a special education evaluation. Interestingly, and this is again from January, the total number was not that different, but it was encouraging for us to see at that point that really the main difference there was that this year we had many more students move in move in with an IEP, and so therefore we would conduct an evaluation. But our actual numbers of referrals from EST teams was down a bit in January. Go to the next slide, please. And then this graph shows over time a little bit more what that looks like. So the blue bars are the total number of special education evaluations over time, so from 2022 to the current year. And then the green bar shows the number of students who were eligible for special education. It is important to note that though the blue and green bar from that last, from this year is as of April 5th. So the year is not done. We still do have a chunk of kids currently in the evaluation process, so it's likely that it will be higher than 24 when we end the year. But in general, seeing that number of evaluations is starting to decrease a bit is encouraging. That means that our systems are better supporting our students, and so they're not requiring that higher layers of intervention and support. And so that's been some encouraging work at the EST.
And now we're going to switch into talking about layer 3, which is really individualized, specialized professional development for select teachers, administrators, and staff. So thinking about that. There's coaching opportunities. We have district coaches, Brian, Megan, who's not here, and then our science and social studies coaches who can go in and provide support one-on-one with teachers around practices that they might be. It might be a request that they've made, like, can you come help model this lesson, show me how to do this thing, and so that coaching opportunity is available. We also have mentors who provide support for our new hires. So we have mentors in a variety of different levels. So maybe they're one-on-one with a brand new teacher. They might be a second year buddy with someone who is in their second year. And then we have some school-based buddy mentoring arrangements for people who are not really new to teaching, but maybe new to our district or new to the role that they're serving in the district. And so you can see some numbers around there. And Brynn mentioned earlier around our new hire orientation and the 2 days of training that those folks receive at the beginning of the year in August.
I think it's rare that we have a mentor program where every single teacher has a mentor of some type. So we could have a teacher with 20 years experience come to our district, but they'll still be paired with a buddy at the school as their go-to person of like, what's the protocol for fire drills? And I want to take my kids on a field trip. How do I do that? Those things that seem small but really take a lot of teacher energy. So to provide those layers of support, here's how we use our report card system and how to set up your grading, for example. And I think that's pretty unique in the state to be able to offer that to everyone.
So the PD funds are available. Each staff member gets the ability to use up to the cost of a UVM course in PD funds towards activities that are aligned with the CIP. And so far this year, 515 unique PD events have been attended for a total cost of $271,000. And then teachers also have the opportunity to apply for 1% funds to support work in a variety of areas. And those applications are out now, and teachers can apply for them this month.
And then I think you get to approve them, right?
Personnel
Personnel.
committee, that's our favorite committee.
So we were thinking in line with policy D2 to report out on spending and our investment in professional development, which it admittedly is pretty hard to do because we have so many layers of embedded professional development and so many of our full-time employees are providing professional development as well, in addition to many other hats. But what I did pull here is some of our titled grant professional development spending that we use. We use some grant monies to support these initiatives. So this year we've spent almost $40,000 on stipends for courses, presenters, teacher leaders who are presenting, outside consultants. The numbers seemed pretty big to me at first when I ran that, and when you divide 40,000 or 39,300 by our approximate 500 staff members, it's an investment of about $80 per person. So it's less than what we pay a substitute teacher. So to access that level of professional development for everybody is a real economic advantage, I think, to be able to give that for employees. We're spending about $45,000 on our mentor and mentee program. We tell our mentors at the training each summer this is our biggest single investment in professional development that we make in our district. It's a big number, and it's so small when we think about that potentially retaining employees who have built up all of this professional knowledge over years. It's a lot to get a new person on board. It's a lot for everyone in the school community, and it's a lot for that new teacher. So investing in our mentor program and our new hire program, I think, is money well spent in order to try to increase our retention of teachers. And then
Bruna, I don't want to interrupt you, but I've got Michaela has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was for the previous slide, but since I'm unmuted, I'll just. Is that okay, Bryn? I'll mess up your flow. Okay. One of the things that we didn't add to the slideshow was that there is a specialized opportunity called Equity in Action that Sarah Kaltenbaugh is leading, and I think it's an important one. Working with right now 6 people across the district who are interested in doing an equity-based kind of participatory action research project in their classroom, in their sphere. If they're like a counselor, so they're looking at a challenge or something they want to bolster in terms of equity work, and having a group of peers to support them in the process of moving towards building a more equitable classroom. And I think it's a beautiful opportunity, not just for the teachers, and of course the students who are impacted, but also that it's another way that we have shared leadership for our equity work in the district.
Thank you so much, Michaela.
Thanks, Michaela.
Michaela, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you were on the Zoom as I was going through the slides. Is there anything else you want to add that we didn't cover? In terms of, there's also the Justice League professional learning community. And I'm not sure if she hears me, but that's also a subcommittee of representatives from each school who meet monthly, I believe, to work on equity, social justice issues, and then bring that training back to their school sites. So approximately $90,000, $91,000 can be pulled out of like specifically professional development activities. When we factor in our new hire and mentor program, it's less than $200 per employee that we're investing. It's a lot of money, of course, but I think, as I mentioned, it's money well spent. Not included there are salaries for some of our folks who provide the PD training, any site-specific professional development expenditures. 1% funds are a separate category that's used to access stipends for teachers to work outside of contract hours. And of course, the $271,000 in personal PD funds we mentioned that have been accessed so far this year. There are some trainings mandated by special education legislation that may not be included here. And then for those events that are outside of the district, travel expenses for those limited events.
Are those costs paid out, I mean, how are those costs paid? Is it federal money, is it grant money?
The costs on the left are federal grant money. That's our Consolidated Federal Programs grant. The costs on the right are an amalgamation of many different line items in our budget. So some of those are salary items from the three unique districts, the SU, the SD, and Vernon. 1% is a salary contract provision, so that would be the salary line for teachers, as well as the benefit of personal and professional development funds. So a variety of different areas, which is why it's a little bit hard to say, we spend X number of dollars.
Right.
So we have a foot in this year and a foot in next year. That's what spring seems to bring. So we're currently working on our PD plan for next year. That's involved with identifying our CIP goals and action steps, and again, aligning to those. We're in the process of gaining feedback from administrators and from leadership teams at schools and from teachers about what needs are rising to the surface as most pressing, so we can try to support that. We are divvying out which days in the calendar next year will be district-wide days versus local days, and thinking about differentiation. We are always trying to supplement some of our local funding with grant awards. Some of the trainings we talked about here were through a $220,000 literacy grant that we got last spring that allowed us to provide some of the books for the book studies and the summer institutes that we ran. Seems like competitive grants are drying up considerably, but we'll continue to look for those kind of opportunities. And then making sure we're publishing our evolving calendar so people are aware of what's available, and that's also advertised in a monthly newsletter that comes out from the CNA office.
And as Bree mentioned, we're always looking to collect feedback from all of the stakeholders, admin, administrators, teachers, and you can see some information there of questions we recently asked around topics for next year that might feel relevant to different people. So one that seems to come to the top is student engagement, and how do we help support teachers and students accessing education. So you can see some information. 100% of teachers and admins believe PD activities should be linked to our CIP goals, which is something we value as well, that there's this connection between the goals that we're working on and the professional development to help support us reaching those goals. And we think it's valuable to have a common learning experience across the district so that there's this unification around what the goals are and how we're working towards meeting those goals. And teachers generally prefer locally led sessions, although we're working towards encouraging teachers to be willing to help present some of those locally led sessions. And so how can we help build their capacity as well to be presenters, because teachers are really knowledgeable and skilled in many different areas. And so how can we help tap into the talent that we have right here in our district to lead professional development sessions?
And I would add to that, I think there's some inherent challenges of developing PD for our district. There are such a range of roles and supports for our students, and to have, for example, a district-wide day and making sure there are deep and relevant offerings for every type of role in our district is a challenge. And we always want to have that be a good investment for everyone and make sure that there's something that everyone can get out of the day. So we're working really hard next year to try to solicit more feedback, especially for our music teachers and our intensive services paras and folks across the whole range. And I think there's always a balancing act. We presented lots of different opportunities here, so much learning that can be engaged in. And actually, Connie Hamilton was giving this analogy of a water pitcher is kind of like our brains. And you can only pour so much in before it starts kind of bubbling over the top. And so there's that too. There needs to be a balance between opportunities for learning and then opportunities for integration and practice and working with colleagues to think about what that actually looks like in the classroom. So we're always trying to design our activities with that in mind.
Tim Mayfield has his hand up. Hang on, Tim, I have to find you so I can unmute you.
Perfect.
That's
Questions?
that's our next
Oh,
slide.
excellent. Oh. Tim?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Terrific presentation. I just wanted to bring up, Deborah knows very well, about 2 years ago, the Student Advisory Committee did a half-day professional development for every teacher at the high school. And by all accounts, it was a tremendous success, and the focus was on student engagement. I mean, yeah, classroom engagement, and the relationships between students and teachers. So my question is, can there be a focused, concerted effort next year to engage students perhaps in another type of this student-led professional development activity, not necessarily the Student Advisory Committee, if they don't want to, but some other group?
I think that's a great idea to explore.
Or even to have, to engage a student with adults in doing a presentation. They don't have to do it by themselves. But just to incorporate that kind of energy and that experience for students.
And building that student leadership as well as our teacher leadership.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
More questions? I guess you did a really good job. That was actually really did do. That was awesome. Thank you all
Yeah,
so
thank you.
much.
Well, thank you all for all the support. We can't offer this to our teachers without all of your support. So thank you.
It's an incredible presentation and documentation of the work that happens throughout a school year. I think it really highlights the levels of support that are provided to every person in our system, from superintendent down. And I think it speaks to the capacity that we're building and continue to build in terms of distributed leadership opportunities. And I think it also speaks to the complexity of a pre-K through 12 system and just being aware of the many needs across our system, from students to educators, so that we're on the ball every day and that we're bringing our best every day. So thank you for taking the time to put all of this together. It is really complex, but you articulated the vision really incredibly, and it's really a major driver of our CIP and our collective school system. So thank you very much.
I'm appreciative of the fact that there's a moment that's open for all of us to step into one of these professional development moments for board members to participate. So when we can, we will. Thank you.
And I appreciate the way you put together another puzzle piece of the district for me. I mean, it's not that I don't know, but now it's right there. And it's in my philo backs. All the old people are laughing. And the young people are like, what are you talking about? Yeah, it's important to understand the moving parts for us. And so thank you very much. It was a terrific presentation. You are a terrific team. Any other questions? Thank you again. Thank you. Now, we have a choice. We can take a 5-minute break here, or we can move on to public comment. And if you are here to comment on DEI, I'd like to point out to you that it is on the agenda, so it will not come here under public comment under non-agenda. Okay, so we're going to take 5. We're back at 6:15. It is 6:16, sorry, and we are back, and we are moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. Please be patient with me when you raise your hand, because I have to unmute you this week. Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to new business. First thing on the agenda is a new position, Assistant Director of School Nutrition. Now, this was introduced in the new food service program, but we did not officially establish the position, and that's why we're here. And I sent you a job description, and Mark, you're on.
Yeah, well, you've all had a chance to read through the job description. It's an important position to run our own food service program. So are there any thoughts or comments or reactions to the description, or can we just move forward and
Madam
and
Chair,
approve it?
I move we approve the Assistant Director of School Nutrition position as presented.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
I will just want to thank the SU board for incredible support of this new direction and moving towards our own food service program. There's a lot of excitement in our community about this, from our students to our teaching staff to our parents and just general community. So it has been your support in approving this direction, and just want you to know we're very appreciative of that support, because it was a little bit of a increase in the budget, but
Well worth it.
the output will be well worth it.
It has been a wonderful experience at Putney, and I'm not sure I can tell you how it felt to walk into the Putney cafeteria and see quartering chickens. Real chickens, not chickens out of a plastic bag. It was like, it felt revelatory, and it's been a great experience, and I think it will be better for all of our students and our faculty for that matter.
And I would certainly see us at some point next year, maybe this time of year next year, providing the SU board with a similar presentation on the developments of the story and how the program's been created.
Make a spinner.
I thought you were
That's
going
what
to say a
Putney used to do.
sample. I thought you were going to say.
If it's a good
Mark,
presentation,
come on.
I'll include a sample.
You sent out an email at some point asking for board volunteers to be part of the search and hiring committee. So is there someone?
Yes.
Reamer.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, great. You're good.
Even had a backup plan for it this time. There was no teeth pulling. I was really impressed.
Okay, perfect.
Great, thank you very much, everyone. So we will move on to, we'll continue with new business. Wait, I scrolled too far. The following policies are presented for a new reading. F1, student conduct and discipline. F21, policy on the use of restraint and secluding. And F29, multilingual learners. All of these policies have already been approved by the SD board. So give them a look. If we wish to have any further discussion on them, bring it to the next meeting and we will. And the following policies are presented for a second reading.
Can I just ask one
Oh,
information?
sure.
Sorry. Is it typical, or is there any rhyme or reason as to which entity approves a policy first?
There's not a particular rhyme or reason. What there is a policy committee that consists of many stakeholders, including representatives from the SU.
Yeah.
So we decided to fail to reinvent the wheel, and we go through these things in the policy committee, and everybody argues, changes, improves, and once it's already approved, then it just comes to us for a pro forma. But again, if it's a problem ever, either at the SD or here, say, stop and bring up whatever.
And Vernon does the same thing. We wait for
The policy committee
to do all the
does the
work,
heavy lifting.
and then we steal it.
And we do the first read and the second read, and we go back and forth, and then it sort of filters to these other groups.
And we do say thank you.
Yes, you do.
Yes,
Yes.
you know, I am doing the
Yes.
heavy lifting, so I don't feel bad at all about not doing it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
No problem.
That's a good question. Comes up every
It
year.
is. And we do have the question occasionally come up, with the relationship between the SD and the SU in terms of policies. So we still have yet to iron that out completely. I'm talking about in policy, having to do with certain policies.
I guess I asked because it could be perceived that the supervisory union would have a bigger umbrella that included the SD and Vernon, and therefore the policy would be
filter from the SU
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, it would, this
But it
way,
doesn't need to.
just brings more people into the process.
Yes.
And makes
Yes.
it more efficient to do it this way. If that changes, we can change it.
Distributed leadership.
Leadership.
Okay, let's call it that.
And in fact, most policies did, back when we were separate districts, most of them did come from the SU first, but occasionally a district would pass it up to the SU for recommendation. For example, our guns policy came out of that. So. Okay. Presented for a second reading. C3, public participation at board meetings, and D6, substitute teachers. Again, you know, and these are out of order, so I'm going back. The following are presented for adoption. G1, curriculum development and coordination, and G13, acceptable use of electronic resources and the internet. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? G1 and G13 are readopted. Now, we have a new policy for discussion. Did everybody get a copy of that?
Yes.
This is, let's find it on my desktop here so I don't lose track of what the heck I'm doing. Oh, you already got your
It
red
is the
pen out.
superintendent evaluation. I'm not seeing it on here. Because it was in policy.
Please stand by, folks. I've lost my window where I had it open.
I don't see it in there. No, that's the director of use.
Oh.
Maybe the agenda again. I pulled it from the website. WSCSU website. WSCN, there you go. Schools. And the top one, and then agendas. And then agendas.
Okay.
There you go. And the top one.
Okay, I have it now.
Okay.
Yep. Now, this is largely the way it was presented. There have been some changes and edits from Pietro. And Mark, you've looked at it as well. You'll see the only part that's still in red is I let somebody else number the policies, so I'll let Mo pick where she wants to put it, where it makes most sense. Are there edits that anybody might like to make?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Under evaluation process, item number 2, board review.
Yeah.
The reference is to Windham Southeast Supervisory District, and everything online says Windham Southeast School District.
I missed one.
There, it's
I
there.
I changed several of them in this
Okay.
one, I apologize.
And then the next one is Vernon
Yeah.
Supervisory District.
Vernon
Yeah.
Town School
I
District.
missed
Vernon
that.
Town, okay,
Okay, so
All right.
there's that one.
okay,
We agree on that.
right. I have more.
Okay.
Okay. All right, number 3. It begins the SU board. I think board should be capitalized.
Well, and can we just say WSESU board all the time?
Mhm.
Because like sometimes we say the board, we say
Yeah.
WSESU
Yeah,
board, we
but-
say the SU board.
But every time you say WSESU
It should be-
board,
board
it's
should be
capitalized. Yes, it is capitalized, yeah. Should I keep on going?
You can keep
Yeah.
on going.
Yeah, I should, okay. On page 2, negotiation timeline. It's, right? It says contract negotiations shall begin at least 6 months prior to the expiration of the current contract. That means that we are beginning the process every 6 months?
No, at the end, when it would be due for a new contract, so.
Yes, but it's a new contract.
No.
It's not a new it's not a new contract every year. It's
Prior
the
to the
evaluation.
expiration of the-
Got it.
yes.
Sorry about that.
And it's only
Okay,
the
this is-
beginning, not the end of it, so.
Got it. This is in effect once every 3 years. Okay, that takes care of that for me. And then my next, I see Tim has his hand up.
You know what, Tim, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make you a co-host, and that means that you can unmute yourself as needed. Oh, where'd we go? There you go. Tim,
Okay, well, first board members should have,
I have a couple of more.
Okay,
I have just 2 more. Thank you, Tim. Under letter C, negotiation process, board authorization will include the board chair and no fewer than 2 other members appointed by vote of the board. If the 2 other members are members of the SU, you now have a quorum.
we can warn it. We can warn
We can
meetings,
warn it.
and they can be conducted in
Got it.
executive session.
Yeah.
Got it, okay, so
This was
that's
a-
okay.
This was a suggestion of the authors.
There was a suggestion of,
The author suggested
Yes,
that
okay.
particular structure.
okay, and that means that the meeting has to be warned. Okay, got
And
it.
there is also no reason that it can't be all of us.
Right, exactly.
It just says no fewer.
Right, exactly, okay. And then it says this policy will be reviewed every 2 years. All right, that was just an underline of mine too. Okay, I also have a philosophical issue about this process, but I'll wait on that. Tim?
Or, can I
Oh,
ask you a
sorry,
question?
sorry,
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
can we go to, part 2, evaluation C4, performance summary? I just don't want to force us to have to do this. The WSESU board shall be responsible for the compilation of the findings into the performance summary.
Yeah.
The V.S.A gave us a draft last year. Let's take it if they're willing to do it. And can we just say we will be responsible for the final performance summary?
Oh, there you
See what I mean?
Mhm.
I just,
Can you give me those numbers again so I can take this note?
section 2, C, evaluate, and I can email you this.
And
Okay, yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
just
so
email you, like, it's just a,
It's sort of, do we want to do the grunt work?
no.
No, no, no.
And if we
it's
don't
not-
like what they give us, we can
Right.
do more work, but if they give us a
Okay.
really good draft to begin with, it's up to us to make it final.
That's right, okay. I was wondering about that one, yeah.
I think my only other thing is B3 under part 2 again. No, sorry, now I'm on part 3. Negotiation. No later than March 15th of a year in which the incumbent superintendent's contract of employment expires, the SU board shall meet to renew or act otherwise. I think March 15th is far too late.
That number came from Pietro, but I am happy to.
Can we talk to him about that?
And the other number, the first date was May.
Yeah, that was
15.
way too late.
Yeah,
Right,
Would
So-
rolling it back to February seem?
I would say February or January. What do we do for teachers? Well, no, they're.
well, teachers always,
Yeah, they already
Yeah,
have a
they
contract.
already have a, oh no, I'm thinking of the,
Oh, but yeah, this isn't,
like, yeah. I just think March is not fair to anybody, including Mark.
oh,
Or, and including any future superintendents, like, that's just not fair.
well, we can pick a date.
Yeah,
Tell me what you all think.
I say January, but January 15th. But I'd also talk to Pietro, I don't know if this is in statute or not.
I don't think it is.
Could we make it February 1st?
February
Because
1st.
we are
fine.
often playing catch up during January,
Sure,
February,
sure,
holidays and
yeah,
everything?
yeah.
Okay.
Does that, Mark, does that seem reasonable to you?
Sure.
And then it, in that same number, it says the Supervisory Union Board. Why not just say the WSESU?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, why not just say
I
that?
would
That's an
cut
odd
and paste.
approach, right?
Change everything that says the board, anything that doesn't say the WSESU.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
okay,
change it to that.
right.
You can check me.
Yeah, okay. So what's our process gonna be on this, getting to?
Well, all of these edits are, we all seem to be agreeing on them. So if we get to a place where we agree, we can present it for first reading. If not, we'll come
Okay.
back and work on it next time.
Okay, I want to stay with number 3, where we just were. What we're saying there is if we feel that there is a problem, we want to make a decision by February 1. Is that the implication of that?
Yes.
It is. Got it. Got it. All right.
Which, you know, if it was a dismissal, it would give the superintendent the
Oh,
opportunity.
it's decent time.
to see
Yes,
a
it's
new-
respectable. Yes,
And
exactly.
conversely, if that's when the superintendent wished to tender resignation, it would give us time.
Right.
You don't wanna be hiring in March or starting a
No.
thing.
Got it. Got it.
No.
But it's in effect saying not later than
Yeah.
Yes.
February 1. Okay.
You have questions, Brian? Nope. You should have seen what I started with all of the, like, other people's edits. And it makes sense, that what I said to Pietro made sense. It's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And these are what Pietro's edits put back in. Tim, I don't seem to see any more questions here. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I have a few things about the content and
Sure.
then about the protocol. I'm surprised that you didn't just highlight the changes from the first edition to the second, or maybe I didn't get the copy that had those color-coded differences. But
No, nobody did. It's all but illegible because there were different people giving me information and I was changing it at different times. I can send it to you.
no, I'll get to that later. But let me just begin with C2, board review.
Wait a minute. It's
C2 board,
It's 2C2.
Oh.
Section 2, I mean, yeah.
oh, C2, got it.
So the last line in that says representatives from the original said representatives from the teaching staff.
Yeah.
It was taken out. You recall, I'm sure, 2 years ago, I suggested that staff be involved in the evaluation process, but that we ran out of time, so it was postponed to the following year. The next year, I brought it up again, staff involved in the evaluation process. And this is consistent with the 360 evaluation process that the SU had agreed to before I was on the board. So last year, again, there's run out of time and there's no time to discuss staff involvement. So now it was just taken out. What is the thinking behind taking out representatives from the teaching staff as part of the process?
Pietro took that part out. I'm
I-
not sure what his reasoning was. I think that he felt that, and other employees within the supervisory union covered it. That doesn't mean we can't change it, but that was an edit that came from Pietro.
Well, Pietro, makes suggestions and he gives us legal advice, but other districts I know involve staff. So this would not be a violation of any statute that I know of. So that's a major issue, I think. I think staff would appreciate being involved in the process. I think that it would be a truer, genuine 360 evaluation. And I think that the staff are directly involved and impacted by decisions of the superintendent. And it would be a healthy exercise for everybody involved to hear from staff directly in the evaluation. But that's number 2.
Right, before you go on, would you want every employee?
No.
Well,
No.
I'm asking Tim. Go ahead.
No, the original language says, let's see, Vernon Supervisory District Board members, administrative staff, and representatives from the teaching staff, e.g. department.
I see it. I have the original here as well.
I'm good with the original. Other employees, in the revised edition, other employees, it's way too vague.
Well, it's also vague representatives from the teaching staff.
Then put department heads, or their designates.
Okay, so directors, department heads. Well, directors are already included, I presume. Right, yeah. So, okay.
Quick comment to the board. I believe only BAMS and UHS have department heads.
Heads.
So that's only gonna get you that
Yeah,
much.
okay.
Then simply put, and representatives from the teaching staff, and let the teachers union or the schools figure out which representatives those may be.
Could I make a quick comment?
Sure.
I believe last year when we had this discussion, I think I even pointed it out, or other people did, that the questions that are evaluative of Mark's performance would be hard for most teachers to be able to weigh in on, about developing the budget and informing the board, things like that. It's at a higher level, and so I just felt like it's challenging for me to rate, and I work closely with Mark. So I wonder how much knowledge they'll have of those. I think there's definitely room for some feedback about our initiatives and Mark's high quality leadership, but I just wonder if they'd be the same questions.
Well, I know that in completing the survey, there are moments when it's not applicable. I cannot respond to that. I also know as an employee, as a teacher, I was very aware of my superintendent's leadership. And so I can appreciate responding to a number of the questions.
Can I comment?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, last year the suggestion was, you're right, Tate, the V.S.A form, most of it would not be applicable to teachers. That's why the suggestion last year was a separate brief survey form, maybe five questions with a comment period. I gave an example of that from another district.
I think this leads to the question that we have had before. Should teaching staff or representatives of teaching staff be part of this, or should there be a larger culture questionnaire for everybody? Not necessarily directly tied to this, but how do our teachers feel in our schools, but separate from a superintendent evaluation? Because I think it's a question we all have, like what does the staff feel about a lot of things, not what does the staff feel about a single person? What does the staff feel about, I don't know.
So,
But separate from this.
This policy is going to be reviewed every 2 years or as necessary. If we were, this first go round, include representatives from teaching staff, why not see what it looks like at the end of this year? And that can always be amended.
Yeah, okay.
And then we'll get a sense of maybe a larger moment of climate for adults, because that's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I think we need
climate for
a
adults.
whole different section not in any way related to
Yeah,
this, that gives us.
And that will give us feedback about professional development and, you know, the coaching and how the whole thing comes together.
And I say that without looking at you guys, which I should, and say, maybe you already do that a lot, because you certainly have feedback that you just showed us on professional development. So maybe all of that information is out there and just needs to come together differently. Or maybe when you're doing your outreach to staff, a few other things could be added in and give us a bigger picture, but you guys might already be doing that, so.
Yeah, I think here, do you want me to respond?
Yeah.
I think we do that in very targeted pockets for specific activities, taking that feedback. Lots of people are like, oh, another survey. We have had conversations of, we're polling our students about climate and we're polling our parents about climate, our families about climate, and there has been discussion about what are pertinent questions to use to guide climate in our district with our staff. So that's definitely a conversation on the table that we've looked at in kind of our local common assessment system. Yes, and so I almost hear you saying like that climate is relating to the leadership of the superintendent and then all of the trickle down leadership in the district to create that climate versus like how does this person specifically perform in this one area?
Or how did we feel about this particular activity, workshop, PD? But zooming out of that, how does the whole thing come together in the life of an employee? Right. I'm really comfortable with having representatives from teaching staff.
We can try it, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys agree? I don't see why not. I mean, obviously the whole staff. Not
Right.
possible.
No, but yeah, right.
Thanks. And then I find myself disagreeing with our attorney on something. The number 3, the superintendent contract negotiation, contract duration and terms. That's on the revised edition, the bottom of the page, number 1. You have it?
Yeah.
I looked up 16 V.S.A. subsection 2104.
Right, 241B. 241B.
Well, I have a different subsection.
Oh.
16 V.S.A. subsection 2104, which is current of January 24. Section C, paragraph C. It says the terms shall be no less than 1 year and no more than, no less than 1 year through 2 years. I lost the language, but it's very, very different than exceed 5 years.
Not to exceed
it
says
5
not
years.
to exceed 5 years.
I know, not to exceed 5 years.
Or
The
less than 1 year.
language here would allow an SU to actually grant a contract of 5 years. That's not in the spirit, I think, or the letter of the statute that I read.
And what's your citation?
16 V.S.A. subsection 2104.
So I looked this up today, what's listed here. And it is exactly as the statute. No, I'm not saying Pietro. I'm saying the statute, 16 V.S.A. 241B.
Huh.
And this is what is in that statute.
Tim, I think you moved into a completely different section of the law.
But it's addressing superintendent contracts.
Is it? Because it's talking about a commission and arbitration and VLRB. I think you're too far down. I think you got to go back up to 241. 2104, I think you've gone.
I would have been surprised if Pietro had made a mistake. So,
This is something, yeah,
This is in the statute.
if I had my big book, I could tell you exactly how far down you went, but I'm on Find Law and I don't like that.
Okay, so that statute.
This is about public school employee health benefits. That's what 2104 is of Title 16.
And do you see the letter, paragraph C?
but it's about employee health benefits.
Oh, that's not at all. Sorry, I'll look it up after this.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, because
not where we are.
Because, well, just in the spirit of the things, I looked up, I've gotten to know other school districts. And the Champlain Valley School District, for example, their longtime superintendent got a 3-year contract. Bennington Rutland got a 3-year contract. South Burlington School District got a 2-year contract. The norm seems to be 2 or 3-year contracts, but if you go with this language, then it would allow for a 5-year contract, and even the Red Sox are reluctant to give a 5-year contract to a good pitcher.
They haven't found one.
Yeah, I think that.
Okay, well, this language is right out of statute.
Statute, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, and I myself would never suggest a 5-year contract unless, the greatest superintendent on the planet with a cape that could actually fly. See, Mark, you can't actually fly. Dropped out of the sky. Then maybe I'd go for 5 years, but,
Well, nothing that we're doing in this moment has to do with Mark.
No, it doesn't actually.
Right.
I was actually kind of couching it that way so Mark wouldn't think it was about him.
Okay, so what's next?
And let's see. I think, I had the same question you guys had about March 15th, but that's up to you. You fixed that. That was all. I do have a warning about the protocol. At the last meeting, Anne, you said that after it was discussed in open session, you had discussed it with Carrie and then Sean.
no, Sean discussed it in open session. Carrie emailed me because she was not able to attend that open session.
Okay, that's what was not clear because that would have been a violation of open meeting law.
Yeah, no, Sean was there at the
Didn't do
meeting,
that.
but Carrie had an emergency and could not be there, so she sent me an email.
Okay, I don't recall that, but that was a long time ago.
That's because she didn't send it to everyone.
No, I mean Sean. And
Oh,
Sean
yeah.
didn't recall it either. I asked him.
It's on the recording, and most of Sean's notes were about actually changing WSESU,
And
WCFP,
Vernon and
things like that.
I
So I missed a couple when I was doing it, so I apologize for that.
No,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, that was all. Sean did it in open meeting. Carrie did not, but that's only because she couldn't be here.
Okay, and I guess that's all.
Okay,
At one point, I know Michelle had her hand up.
she did.
Michelle, if you still would like to talk, you could put your hand up.
There we go.
There we go. That should work.
All right. You guys kind of just covered what I was thinking about. It was the same thing under the board review. And I just wanted to offer some feedback about, because this was developing, obviously, while my time was on the board. And we had the advocacy of our teaching staff, of course, especially to do 360 evals. And I know that what this board learned from the School Board Association and the Superintendent Association is that that was what they recommended, and that 360 evals are the most effective when assessing somebody in leadership. And as I recollect it, the process with the School Board Association was that they went through all employees down and even some community stakeholders, and there was like a weighing system so that it was like the immediate staff underneath them had the most weight, and it gradually went down, so that information, I'm trying to think of an example, something like communication, right? Like how would the immediate staff might think that our superintendent is a great communicator. Families might not feel the same, or, something like that. So just for your consideration, I think there could also be a little bit more transparency about what that weighing system would look like under this board review. I think that your staff and community members would like to know that. But that's just my 2 cents. I just wanted to offer you guys that information since is still in my mind.
We might want to reach back out to the V.S.A because they were actually not in favor of us including all staff. They said if you want us to do it, we'll do it, but that is not our standard operating procedure. We find that it is not helpful. So maybe we should reach back out and find what to say.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember. I definitely don't think that they ever said everyone. I think it was I don't remember what method it seemed like there would be a randomized method to go out to stakeholders, but it was like all of the board members, all of the immediate administrative staff maybe, and then somehow a random selection, a percentage of teaching, not just teaching staff, paras and other staff, and then community stakeholders. And I remember us talking about that, like, how would you decide who's getting it? Would there be any knowledge, or would it be the principals choose, or leadership councils, whatever? But and we never really came to an answer because we were just trying to establish something since we had nothing at the time. But yeah, it would probably be good to continue to develop that just so it's really transparent and clear. And I
would just add that it's become pretty apparent that V.S.A and this district are going to continue to disagree on quite a few.
So what's our plan?
Okay, so I would personally say leave representatives from teachers and other staff, something like that. And in the interim, get to the V.S.A and have a conversation.
And if anyone has a different organization that they have heard of that might be that we can look at what they might have to offer.
We can try again. Every year we look.
Try again.
I would also be careful of saying representatives from teachers. You might want to say staff.
Staff representatives.
And that broadens it out because it's not just teachers.
True.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've written over that like 4 times. Circle around it this time, so I won't lose it. Okay. So we can work on these edits. Shall I bring them back next time, or okay?
I think so. I think we want to see it one more time.
Continued discussion.
Yeah, we want to see it one more
And
time.
I'd be happy to bring it to the policy committee. If the policy committee would like to have a look at it as well, that makes sense.
I think it's a new policy. Bring it to the policy committee. And that meets on April 23rd, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, that has to go on the policy agenda.
I will try and help you remember. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
everybody. This has been quite productive. Okay. So we are moving on to other business. We have been requested. Let me close the meeting if I can see what I'm doing. We have been requested to sign on to a letter to Secretary Saunders asking her to take the position that New York and Massachusetts have taken with the Department of Education regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Many of us believe that it's not simple compliance, because I believe the same thing that Zoe Saunders does, that we are not breaking any laws and we will keep doing what we're doing. And we are not using DEI to favor one race or other group of people above others. But I don't think that that's what the Department of Education is asking for. I think that this is a step toward A, making it possibly illegal, or B, charging anyone who agreed to it and then turns around and teaches DEI with fraud. I wanted to keep this entire topic pretty quiet because I didn't want to draw attention to us, because I want to keep doing what we're doing. But now we've been put in a different position, and I think it's time to take a stand. And I stand with our marginalized students, and I stand with the rest of our students, because the things that marginalized people hurt all of us. They use people who they call lesser as weapons to keep those who they want to feel superior also down. They pit groups against each other. And that's why DEI matters. Now I've spoken my piece. I stand and I will be signing that letter personally, while there's a different one that says the same thing, that individuals will be allowed to sign. But I would like to see us as a supervisory union as people responsible for the well-being of all of these students and responsible for our tiny efforts to build a better world. Stand up. Okay, discussion.
Can I ask, because I got very confused by all of the press releases going around, and I thought I was up to date, and then something else happened. So, Mark, maybe you know, at the moment, where do things stand? I feel like the state is saying, we're gonna sign compliance for the state.
That is what they're saying.
And then,
Yeah, and that they support us in continuing to do the work that we have been doing.
so I feel like they're almost going out saying, we're gonna sign, keep doing what you're doing, we'll take the rap. And then when I saw the Attorney General get involved, I kind of went, okay.
Yeah.
I kind of like the,
I don't think they're going to take the rap.
I'm not sure they're gonna take the rap, I guess that was the wrong word to use. I think they're gonna fight the fight.
I don't think they're going to fight the fight.
I kind of thought
No.
I thought the Attorney General's press release made me say fight the fight.
Yeah, I think that maybe Sheridan Clark is going to fight the fight. I do not think that the AOE, Undersecretary Saunders, or Governor Scott are willing to fight this fight.
I'm not sure what we're signing off on.
A letter encouraging her.
No, I'm not talking about this moment at the SU meeting. I'm talking in relationship to this press release, because how can you sign on to something where the language explicitly states something and you're not planning to comply with that law? You're going to do something different. You're now doing something that's illegal. And it just goes on and on to talk about all the penalties that the state or the district will incur if you do not follow Title VI as presented.
As the current administration believes that it exists.
This is where it's so legal.
I don't mean I don't mean Governor Scott. I mean
The federal government.
This is step one toward banning discussion of these matters in public schools, in pretending that we're colorblind. And I am not colorblind. I see race quite clearly, and I question anyone who says that I should not want to. Oh no, I'm going to ignore this terrible thing and just treat you like a regular person. No, this is nonsense.
So we're not signing on. What I think my understanding of this is what's being presented to us is not Title VI, because there is an addendum to Title VI at the end.
It's footnotes 3 and 4. Yes.
Oh, it's more than footnotes.
Oh yeah, but
it's
the
more than
footnotes are really
Yes,
the worst
that's right.
part of it.
So you're signing. We would be
No.
signing on to that document.
No, we're not.
It's Zoe Saunders.
We're not signing. We don't have to sign on to that.
All she has done is taken away the responsibility of districts to sign on as well.
Yeah.
She is intending to sign for the entire state.
Yeah.
And what we are being asked to do is sign a letter asking her to not do that.
Yes.
And take
That's
the
right.
position that New York and Massachusetts, and I believe Maine.
Did Mass do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I believe Maine, Maine State.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, there's like too many press releases floating around.
No,
Yeah, and
So-
you ought to see my inbox.
Yeah, seriously.
So, Karen, you asked a question of Mark, and I never heard an answer. Do you want to answer her question to you? I believe it was about, do you know any more definitively anything?
I don't. I mean, things are changing very quickly, and I certainly don't want to speak for anybody else in terms of Secretary Saunders or make any implications for the governor's land. I put my statement out because that's how I feel, and I feel it represents our school district, and we have no interest in turning back. In fact, we're moving forward with the work, and we're going to continue to commit to do that. We've been traveling to each school staff meetings in the past 2 weeks, and we'll continue to after April break to speak to every certified staff member at every school in our school district. Michaela and I have been doing this in partnership, and just again doubling down and sharing our vision as a school district that we've collectively worked towards building over many, many years. And really in the past 5 years, I think we've made we've gained the most momentum and started building systems to do this work, not in a silo, but across the span of what we do on a daily basis. DEI is not an individual topic. It's how we teach kindness, how we teach respect, how we teach understanding and acceptance of differences. And that's what we're just going to continue to do. Nothing's going to change that. We're just going to continue doing it.
Good.
Mary has
Yeah, I was going to begin from
maybe she
line.
has something.
Mary?
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm here again tonight, just in support. And so a couple thoughts, and I'm listening to you, and I know it's I've never been in such a situation where there's so much coming at us, and then we're pivoting to something different and trying to figure out what the most accurate, up to date scenario is. And so I can share with you what I've known for like the last 24 hours. I might have shared a little bit of this last night. And also want to say there are multiple press releases. The one that has come out of a coalition of us from NAACP chapters. So you'll see there's one with my name on it and Mia Schultz from the 2 NAACP branches, along with Education Justice Coalition, folks from the Human Rights Commission, Vermont Students Anti-Racism Network. So there's a whole coalition of folks that were also part of organizing students and teachers for the protest in Montpelier today at 4:00. As far as the open letter, again, I'm not sure what open letter you are all speaking of. There's one that I've been supporting work on where names are getting added to that, which came again from the leadership at the Education Justice Coalition. That's an open letter to the AOE.
That's the one we're talking about, Mary.
Okay, good. Thank you. Specifically stating like what our asks are, and they're
Yes.
listed out like 4 or 5 asks. Okay, great. So the latest that I have is, some of you may have seen today that Governor Scott sent out a press release as part of his weekly or daily press release, which I felt, for me and for those of us who have been working on this tirelessly, was an attack on us. It was very disrespectful. You can find it on the website. I'm sure it's now all over the media. Basically, he and his chief of staff are depicting our efforts in such a way where they're comparing us or drawing parallels between us and the current administration, because they claim that we are divisive. And so they're essentially gaslighting a lot of what, the work is that we've been doing. And so I just want to alert people to that. And I think there'll be, again, more LTEs and responses to that. The last part that I know that I still haven't heard more about today, and I was on several meetings, is that the Vermont NEA pushed on Saunders in a late afternoon meeting yesterday, and she assured them that she was going to write a letter, modeling the New York and Massachusetts sentiments. We have not seen a draft of that, and we've asked for a draft of that. And we're being told that they will send it to us, but they have not done that yet. I don't know what will happen now, because I think the governor feels that now we have been pushing on their will and have activated this in a way that he feels is not helpful. So I guess what I'll say in closing is similar to what I said last night is, many of you know, I've been in this work, as many of you on the screen and in the room have been for over 25 years. For me, I'll speak for me, in the school district in Brattleboro. This is not a new conversation. And these are struggles that a lot of us have been involved in for a long time. And now it's rising to the surface. And I think given this, coupled with the transformation education model, is really activating the communities and parents and students in ways it has not before. And we are not going to stop. We are going to be clear about our asks. And I appreciate what Mark has said tonight and Anne, that we will keep doing what it is that we know is the right thing for our kids. And we'll keep figuring out what the language is or how we're going to do that. But in the meantime, what we're really asking for from the Agency of Education is their full-on support and using the language of diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice. And they're struggling with that right now. So I'll stop there, but that's the most update that I have. If folks are interested in having their names put onto the open letter, it's fine if you're an individual and you want to identify yourself as so-and-so, WSEU or WSESD. We're happy to have as many names as possible.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mary.
So it's the 10 a.m. letter we're looking at now. Is that correct?
I don't know, the one I sent you.
The one you sent this morning.
Yeah.
Revised
Hang on a
letter.
second, Michelle, I just unmuted you, but then people ask me questions.
Okay, yes, I just want to make sure I'm on the right letter.
Yes.
Okay, because I think the one that Mary is referring to is a different one.
It's a different one?
It's a different one,
Okay.
with individuals listed that.
Well,
that I saw
it does
that.
have actually 3 individual names on the original one that I sent out.
Yes, but that as
Has
for the
Mia,
organization.
Right,
Akon,
right. I'm
Robin
going through the link right now. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm on the right one.
Michelle?
Hey guys. So I have so much to say. I saw the governor's press release today and I literally had my phone calling the governor's office within 30 seconds. And I spoke to them for 35 minutes today because I was so outraged by how condescending, and the gaslighting is exactly the right word that Mary just used, coming after parents and teachers and suggesting that we have misinformation because we're speaking up and they're being flooded with phone calls rather than respecting and honoring that the governor is hearing from his constituents and our educators. As a little update, the Vermont ACLU has also released a press release today and has absolutely struck the governor down for not standing for our own civil liberties, protecting state rights. There is more states have joined. We are Minnesota, Pennsylvania, California just hit the headlines of resistance. The federal government has added 10 more days. So the new deadline is the 24th. I don't think it's good news that our Secretary of Education has decided to write on our behalf. I think I would have rather had seen districts make that decision for themselves and be very clear about who supports this and who doesn't. I think that was a cop-out to take our voice away and our power. It's already, we have the executive branch stepping on our municipal government, our school board's toes, trying to dictate what we need to do. The governor's office is very clear that they feel that he actually said, why wouldn't we sign it? We're already doing it. And I'm like, because we're already certified. They are looking at this as, since we're in compliance, we're going to only be held to the true legal interpretations, but they're completely ignoring, obviously, that this certification came out with information from our current Department of Education and the Office of Civil Liberties that does not align with our educational standards or our values. It is very clear. I mentioned some of those things last night about really attacking teaching history, essentially. Besides that, I think that, what else was there? What else did I want to say? I'm sorry. I looked down at my little piece of paper and I shouldn't have. I should have just kept talking and saying what I was thinking. The other thing, I would actually encourage you guys to get outraged with us, because I find it to be so outlandish that our Secretary of Education would in any way, like, her job is to be advocating for what's best in our schools. She should be in alignment with our school board, with our principals association, superintendent association, and the teachers union. They're united. They're united in where they stand and the perspective that they see. I want to go back. The certification, besides the fact that it's attached to this fact sheet that is really highly offensive, something I haven't heard the governor or Secretary Saunders speak to is it really clearly states that the state would also report in part of the certification compliancy issues and what their plan is to enforce compliancy. So that's just being glossed right over. Like, that's not part of the written report that they're asking for us to come back and speak to. I've strongly urged the governor's office at this point that he needs to stand with our educators, and that the only reasonable solution, if they feel very strongly, is to bring everyone back to the table and create a joint statement with the Secretary of Education, all of those in educational leadership, and our Attorney General. They're prepared to fight when we don't comply after the fact, when the reality is so much damage is going to be done. The message being sent is clear. The rhetoric, the governor gaslighting us, saying that we're falling for the rhetoric, while completely ignoring that the rhetoric is literally attached to the certification that is being sent out in its facts page. It's right in there. It is very clearly stating that a violation could look like something that shames somebody for what their ancestors did for oppressing others. This is something we need to all be fired up about, and just really offended that this is even our toes are being stepped on, that they're crossing into this territory. I'm not okay with Secretary Saunders, taking away our voice. This is our oversight. It is school boards. This is our community values. This is protecting our state rights. Our governor's not protecting our state rights right now. He's clearly aligning himself and making essentially a pledge, with an administration that has evolved our Department of Education's stance on diversity, equity, and inclusive work. So I really, not only would I urge you guys to sign this, I would urge you guys to become outraged and become a voice in our community and lead us. There's so many signatures. I know that organization list just keeps growing. I think we're just going to keep seeing that across, especially with 10 more days. I think people were panicking, and I totally get what you said. Like, in the beginning, you're almost like, let's just keep doing what we're doing and keep our heads down and stay out of the limelight. But that's not the way. That's not, we have to we know it's right.
It's not an option.
It's not an option.
I wanted it to be, but it is not an option anymore.
That was Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
That was last week.
The reality is we have people in our community that are under attack. They feel under attack. They're scared. We have kids that are scared. Yeah. And not anything shy of saying this is wrong is sending a message to our children in our schools, that there's somehow we can gloss over and just, it's okay because, we're supposed to just be focused on the law of the land as it's interpreted. Remind the fact that we are already watching our executive branch completely just disregard our judicial branch's, voice and when they're weighing in on things. So I think this is a dangerous time. I think it's a time for our school boards to be brave. I just saw your light go out. I think it's a time for school boards and community members to be brave. I know our educators, we're out there at 7:30 this morning. We're rallying together tomorrow. We're not, it's not all activists. It's people who care. It's not even about protecting these changes at this point. I want to make sure that the people in our community feel safe and supported. I want to make sure that the kids in our schools, we have children, this is specific to, it seems like it's not touching into the whole DEI thing because of Title VI is very specific to racial inequalities, but we have so many kids. We all know that that's not the case. We know that's not the perspective. We know that the message that's going into our schools, we need to set an example that we stand for inclusivity, that we respect our differences. We're going to continue to do the work and we're proud of it. So I know this is a challenging time. I want you guys to know there is not a question. He is being flooded because this is what Vermonters want. We have 2/3 of our state were not in supportive of the current presidential administration. And I think you guys will only be just that much more valued and appreciated. Your leadership on this would be greatly appreciated. Our teachers want to feel supported. I think because we've had our professional, our experts, our educational leaders have already voiced and united. I think that's really empowered our teachers to feel confident in the work that they're doing, and also, being able to stand out in front of their schools and do these walk-ins. And that is the clear message we need to be setting. I would love to see Vermont be an example, but I'm glad that at least some of our neighboring states are. They're setting. They've laid it out for us. We're getting so much information by the way they're responding. It's disturbing to me. I hope. I was disappointed to see this message. It feels like last night, Mary had shared that Secretary Saunders was talking about modeling after the New York response. And we're like, okay, well, what is that going to mean? And I don't think it's a coincidence that early this morning, the AOE was still repeating what they said on Monday, that there would be a statewide compliance letter. And suddenly Governor Scott comes out. He's wearing the pants, and I think she needs to get online that she's representing our education. She's representing all of our schools, and that she needs to align herself with what our educators believe is best, like to not listen to the professional feedback of our educators. And that's everyone. That's you guys too. You're leaders in our community. So I'm just going on and on and on. I'm all inflamed. I'm just worked up.
I was about to say thank you, Michelle, but I have more hands.
Okay. So I just
be brave.
I just want to say that for both boards, the SD and the SU, this is not business as usual. There is no need to rouse us to fury. We are already there. This is not a conditional. We are already there, and we are. There will be, as you know, a special board meeting tomorrow night. With this issue as the topic. So we are there.
Are you making a motion? Well, I have, Anna, did you have something you wanted to say?
Thank you for that. I think I understand that, and I guess the only thing I would add that maybe hasn't been said is that I understand that the state already certified in January that they were in compliance with federal law on this topic. And so why would the federal government be asking for a new signature if there was not some new idea of what to do with that? And so I think that should raise red flags, and it is asking to sign on to this new interpretation of this. So
thank you very much. Liz?
Yeah, I agree with everything that everybody has said. But I also have been thinking that writing to the Attorney General of Vermont, writing to Charity Clark to express what the boards think, because it is distinctly different than what Governor Scott is telling Saunders to do. I mean, he's telling her what to do, and he has shown himself. Maybe this is the real Phil Scott this year. I'm not going to say a descriptor, but like when he dumped his 5-district plan for the state for schools, and then his behavior is despicable. He dropped that plan, right? But just a brief summary, and then just a couple of days before the crossover date, he dropped all the details, and then after the crossover date, he attacked the legislature. But I think that it would be useful to contact Charity Clark.
Thank you, Liz. For that
she's
suggestion.
the Attorney General, and she can make the determination about whether we join in with New York and Massachusetts and Maine, and all the ones that Michelle added, because I don't think we're going to get anywhere near what we need from Saunders and Scott. So I think, communicating to Charity Clark that we want her to join the lawsuit, and she can do it. She doesn't need legislative approval. She can do it. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? I would entertain a motion that the Windham Southeast Supervisory Union sign the letter that was put forward by the Education Justice Coalition of Vermont, the link of which you've already seen.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Is there any more discussion?
Just a point of clarification. This is the version of the letter that we've seen that has about 5 pages of signatures on it.
Is it the one that?
I think it's the one that was sent at like 10 a.m. this morning from AM. And it says revised letter.
Yes. And it was, I only sent it that quickly because it was an emergency to get it here in time, and I didn't get it till the revisions till this morning.
So it's Education
Yes, it is the
Justice
one.
Coalition of
Yeah.
Vermont. Okay.
And this is also the one that is addressed to Secretary Sanders and Attorney General Clark.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
dated April 8th.
April 8th, yes.
They may revise it briefly again, but they will not change the substance of it.
Right, it's the same letter.
And we will have, if they were to change the substance of it, suggesting Dalton murder or something, we could withdraw our name from it. So,
Okay, thanks.
no problem. Anything else? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you very much. We will be signing our name to this document. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for everyone online who came to weigh in on this topic. Okay. Well, we have come to more or less the end of the public part of our meeting. The first thing I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session under 1 V.S.A. 313A1B, labor relation agreements with employees. Thank you, Carrie. Is there any discussion?
Anyone coming in with us?
Sorry, inviting in Mark Spino. Just you, Mark?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? And we are entering into executive session at 7:24. There will be action taken.
But no action was taken.
Thank you. We have risen from executive session at 7:28, and I would entertain a motion to approve the master union contract as presented by administration.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? And the contract is ratified by the SU. It has come to my attention that the subject of the executive session that was now scheduled next will no longer be necessary. So, we do not have the second.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
There being no further business before this board, I move we adjourn.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? And we are adjourned at 7:29. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.